who do you most admire, Republican politician, dead or alive?
Wow. I would say Governor Palin and Ronald Reagan. And the reason is that both of them had a spine of steel. Governor Palin, of all people, understands the politics of personal destruction, and she didn't let it get her off track. Ronald Reagan, as I mentioned, with foreign policy, when all of his so-called advisors were saying, end the Star Wars program, he had a spine of steel, and he said, absolutely not. Now I'm going to call their bluff, and I'm going to stay strong, and I'm going to support our military, and that's how we won the Cold War. He did what he knew was right. He stood up in the face of adversity. He stood up in the face of his critics, and he was right.
Do you, does the media sometimes get under your skin at all? Because you have, I mean, for better or for worse, I mean, sometimes being attacked in the media isn't necessarily a bad thing. It gets you a lot of attention you might not otherwise have. But does it get under your skin?
Well, I hate to say it, I've stopped watching. I've stopped watching the news. I've stopped reading the news clips. Because what is frustrating the most is the inaccurate picture they're painting of my family, and that they're dragging my family into this, and calling my brothers and sisters and putting them under scrutiny. You know, my family's not running for office, I'm running for office. So, you know, it unfortunately comes with the territory, but what I've tried to do is tune it out and stay focused to the people, on the people of Delaware, and get into the communities as much as possible and talk to the people. And that is truly invigorating and inspiring. And it might sound like a cliche, but that's what keeps me motivated. Sitting down with, whether it's a group of farmers or veterans, hearing what their concerns are, hearing what their needs are, and then going, I can help. I can do something about that. And when you realize that this fight has a cause greater than themselves, and you're taking these hits and scrutiny because you want to help these people that you just met with in their homes, and you want to end the death tax so that this farmer can pass his farm on to his son, or you want to get down there to Washington so you can support our wounded warriors, it keeps you motivated. And it, you know, especially one of the things that really helped me to just stay on track and stay motivated was meeting with many of the disabled veterans and realizing, you know, I spoke to this one gentleman, George, who said, you've got to keep going, you've got to stick to the fight. And he told me about how when he came from deployment overseas, when he returned to America, people would spit on him. And he said that hurt, but he took it because he knew what he was defending. He knew the cause, and he knew why he was doing it, even if the people spitting on him didn't. And he shared with me that what he sees our leadership in Washington doing to America hurts the same way as when people spit on him, because it's the very people who are supposed to be defending our freedoms, defending America, who are destroying it. So he encouraged me, please keep on going. We took bullets overseas to defend freedom. We need you in Washington. And that just, my sister and I drove back from that picnic at the Elks Lodge like, wow, we can't let them get us down. You know, Governor Palin's, one of her favorite sayings, don't let the, you know, get you down. And we just said, keep George in mind every time it gets tough.
It's tough for a lot of Americans with the economy. And the unemployment rate is, according to the government statistics today, is stagnant at 9.6 unemployment. What would you do about the economy if you had, I mean, I realize as a United States Senator you don't have necessarily the authority, but you're part of the discussion. Right. What would you do with the economy?
Well, there is a lot that the U.S. Senate can do to help the economy. And first of all, I read in our news brief this morning that while unemployment is at a stagnant level, more and more people are on food stamps. And that broke my heart when I read that, because they went from temporary unemployment to permanent dependency. So one of the first things that the U.S. Senate can do is to make sure that we don't get the tax increases that are going to hit in January, because small business owners are already struggling, and they're going to be impacted by these tax increases. So we can make sure that the government can roll back the high taxes, roll back some of the regulations that prevent an idea from becoming a thriving business. We need to create jobs based on private businesses. When you roll back taxes, and especially one of the things I'm proposing is a temporary 2-year tax holiday on the capital gains tax, because then people have more money in their pocket. When people have more money in their pocket, they reinvest in businesses. When you reinvest in businesses, businesses grow. When businesses grow, business owners hire people to sustain growth. That's how the economy grows. So there are things that the U.S. Senate can do, But what happens is we have to cut off the slush funds of the special interest groups in order to do it.
Everybody says that, though. I mean, every candidate who ever runs says, first of all, I'm an outsider, and we got to get rid of the special interest. But nobody ever does it. I mean, why should voters believe you or anybody else when you say that?
Well, because I've had to sacrifice a lot to earn my position on the ballot. I've had to take a lot of hits in the primary. I'm taking a lot of hits now. I'm committed to the people of Delaware and their interests, not the special interest groups in Washington. I don't have a party behind me. I don't have big PACs behind me. I don't have special interest groups, but I've got an army of volunteers who want me to be their voice in Washington, and that's humbling and that's honoring. So one of the things that I've committed to them is to have town hall forums similar to what we're doing on the campaign trail when I'm in Washington, so that I can continue to hear from them. But I think one of the biggest reasons why we can ensure that the politicians who go to Washington do what they say is because what my whole candidacy is about returning the political process back to the people. I'm not a candidate who's been anointed by the party bosses. It was the voters who worked very hard to get me to help me win the primary. So now that the political process, my victory will represent turning the political process back to the people. And what I've said to them is over the course of the next 4 years, because there's only 4 years left in this term, as I explained to you in the town hall forums what I'm doing and why I'm making these decisions, if you don't like it, you have the power to vote me out. So, I mean, that to me is a wonderful thing, and that's how politicians should remain accountable to their constituents.
One last question. I am you. What does that mean?
Well, it means I'm not a career politician. I'm not someone who's inherited millions of dollars. I'm not someone who's been groomed to run for office or picked and anointed by the party elite and the party bosses. I'm someone who ran for office because people in Delaware asked me to. They wanted someone who was close to the process, close to what is going on, and affected by the policies coming out of Washington. So I'm an average citizen who knows how hard it is to earn and keep a dollar, and I want to go down to Washington and represent the voice of the people again.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you,
I hope if we stalk you again and pound you and annoy your staff and hang out at your doorstep, you'll talk to us again.
Well, you came to Wilmington, met us on the campaign trail, so I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greta.